I don't think we've talked about this topic on this podcast. And maybe we paid some acknowledgement to it when it happened, but I don't remember at all if we actually addressed the impetus of it and then the following of it. Did we mention Alex Trebek passing and how much that impacted our lives?
I think we did. I think we talked about it.
Have we talked since about watching and criticizing constructively all of the hosts afterwards?
I don't know that because we've been bad.
So I don't know that we've been bad, but we're at the halfway point that the powers that be with Jeopardy said there were going to be 16 guest hosts.
Really? I had no idea a number was, yeah.
And that started in February. We've gotten through 8, and here are the 8 that have graced our airwaves post Alex Trebek.
Do you want to read them first?
I have them.
Okay, great.
First one, Ken Jennings, the GOAT, the guy who I think we're all secretly rooting for, Ken Jennings. Katie Couric, surprisingly good job.
She did such a good job.
The weirdest one of all, the absolute weirdest one of all. Do you remember?
Yeah, the producer.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy.
Who is this dude? Mike Richards. I mean, he did a fine job, but it's like we're clearly rolling out high level, high caliber talent, and then the executive producer.
It was sort of, and he didn't do a bad job.
No.
But he fell a little flat for me. He was a good looking, charming guy, fell a little flat for me. But I just couldn't get over, like, who are you again?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, did the person who was supposed to show up not show up?
Are you
and
filling
you said
in
you
for
would
2
do it?
weeks? Yeah.
Exactly.
After that, we had Dr. Oz. Who
not for me.
People were not cool with Dr. Oz. I mean, he's got great presence. This is what he does. He didn't have any after question answer banter. He was off.
He was also really Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
And like Katie Couric, the thing that was great about her, she was Katie Couric, but kind of with this new little twist on it.
Yep.
So we liked that.
Aaron Rodgers, the NFL quarterback, fine, very monotone.
Yeah, he did okay.
Yep. Followed by Anderson Cooper.
Love Anderson Cooper. And I thought Anderson, here's what I loved about Anderson, is we normally see, except when he giggles sometimes, on CNN we see a pretty conservative Anderson. Because
rightfully so.
A newscaster.
Right.
We got to see like this friendly banter Anderson, and he's a smart guy.
Yep.
So it felt kind of like even like Alex is a smart guy.
Yep.
I loved Anderson.
Then we had Bill Whitaker, who felt like everybody's cool older uncle.
Bill Whitaker. And if people don't know who he is, he's on 60 Minutes.
Yep.
Look him up. His tone, his smile.
Yeah.
Boy, if you don't feel safe with Bill Whitaker, right?
Every
Amazing.
novel that turns into an audiobook should be read by Bill Whitaker.
Loved him.
And then this week we had former champion Buzzy Cohen. So that's 8 people that we have gone through. Here are the next 8 people.
Ooh,
so wait,
okay.
give me your top 3 of the people that we've named so far. The top 3 that you enjoyed watching.
Okay, I'm going to say that I wouldn't throw a fit if these 3 were hired.
Okay.
Ken Jennings.
I think it's his to lose. He's an executive producer on it. Like you can see it when it scrolls at the end of the, what is it called? What are those?
The credits.
The credits. When the credits scroll at the end, it's like his name is third.
Yeah. So Ken Jennings, Anderson Cooper.
Yeah.
Though I doubt he's going to give up his CNN gig.
For sure not.
And then I'm going to say I have a tie.
Okay. So we asked for 3. Deb's going to give us 4.
Probably not Katie. I think for the long term, she might annoy me.
Sure.
I think I'm going to slip to Bill Whitaker.
I don't think that's a wrong answer.
Yeah.
I've thoroughly enjoyed Bill Whitaker. Okay. Here's who's up next.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I knew I wasn't even going to get a syllable
You
into
literally
it.
went, yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to get a syllable into it before I messed her name up. Mayim Bialik.
Oh, yeah.
Say it.
Blossom.
Yeah.
That's who we named our first dog after.
Our first Springer Spaniel was named Blossom because of
her character.
Mayim Bialik's character Blossom growing up.
Yep.
She's a literal neuroscience major. There's a bug in here.
Nothing I can do, Kev.
She's a literal like neuroscience major. She's brilliant. So I think she'll do great.
She'll do great, but she won't be my cup of tea for the long. I can tell you that.
No, but She'll be good as a guest host.
It'll be interesting.
Savannah Guthrie. She'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Oh, he'll be good.
George Stephanopoulos.
He'll be good.
Robin Roberts.
Oh, she'll be good.
This is my dark horse.
Okay.
LeVar Burton.
Are you part of the whole crew that wants LeVar?
1,000%.
I don't even get that. Where are you? Like,
you didn't grow up when I grew up. You didn't grow up when all of us grew up because you weren't taking a look. It's in a book, a reading rainbow.
Wasn't he though in Roots before that?
Well, yeah. What millennial was alive for Roots?
I remember Roots. That's what I remember.
What does that have to do with anything?
Doesn't translate to Alex Trebek for me.
That's inappropriate, Deborah.
It's not inappropriate.
Hey,
Aaron Rodgers didn't translate to Alex Trebek for me either.
And then the last one is David Faber, co-host of CNBC's Squawk on the Street.
Oh, I know who that is. Yeah.
I so love LeVar Burton. He reminds me of my childhood. His voice is soothing. He was in Star Trek. He was also on PBS. He just
in Roots. Don't
everything.
Roots.
It's weird that you keep bringing up Roots, okay? It's weird that you keep bringing up Roots.
Saying, that's the first thing I remember.
Everybody else who's listening thinks it's weird that you keep bringing up Roots. But of everybody left, I'm more excited for LeVar Burton.
So that kind of was this little weird grassroots thing that rose out.
Why do you keep saying Roots?
Grassroots is not the same as Roots. But that was like this little organic thing that rose out of these people, this group that just believed LeVar is
I'm telling you, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go on YouTube.
Okay.
Stop watching Bruno Mars videos. I need you to go find.
They just appear. If LeVar would just appear,
I swear to God, the other day, Deb's sitting in the chair, no TV on. I hear her phone playing. It's like something I'm not listening to, something I'm not listening to. Bump. Bum, bum. I'm just like, why do you keep watching the same stuff? She's like, no, it's being forced to me.
It's being fed to me. If Instagram would force feed LeVar, we'd probably be in having a whole different conversation.
You need to go find old school Reading Rainbow stuff.
Okay,
he's so nice and he's so sincere and he's cool on top of everything. Like, I don't think any of us truly appreciate, like us millennials, how much of a positive effect LeVar Burton had on our lives. So to think that I could now spend the rest of my adulthood with a guy who somewhat curated my childhood, that would be wonderful.
Well, and I must have been the mother that set you in front of him. I mean, right?
But no, I don't think you, no, clearly you didn't, because you would have been like, why are we watching the Roots guy?
No recollection of this.
Last time I saw this guy, he was getting whipped on Roots. That's Kunta Kinte.
That sounds terrible. So that second group, I want to say, just because of the enthusiasm you have had about LeVar Burton.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's for sure a contender in that second group. No question.
Absolutely. You know why? Because he's got great presence without being like a traditional TV host. The rest of these people are traditional TV hosts. So this is in their wheelhouse. Oh, I forgot. There's one more. It didn't show up on this one page. Joe Buck, Fox Sports broadcaster.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Buck.
I know who. Yeah.
He'll be great too.
Will he?
He'll be great because he's got the delivery down. All of these people are going to be good because their profession is television.
But Katie Couric, I saw an interview. She goes, listen, I've gotten ready for big things in my life. Never before, ever in my life have I practiced like I practiced for this.
See, that's really interesting to me because they've all said that. They've all said, we knew what Alex did was special. We had no idea how difficult it was.
Yeah.
And I want to know what it is that's difficult because Joe Buck, who we just referenced, he's been practicing for like the last 4 months. We know that they're probably recording right now.
Right.
But he's been like, since these names came out, he's been practicing. So they give them things, and it must be like cadences or shorthand or something like that.
There's a cadence when the person answers the question. Like Alex was like so fast, right? In fact, I noticed with Anderson Cooper, and it wasn't a big deal thing, and I loved him, but there was a like millisecond lag when he would. Do you remember that when he would respond?
I think it's with most of them.
Yeah, just a millisecond, but his retorts were always good, and he was funny sometimes, so that was nice. It is nice to see these diverse personalities.
Oh, for sure.
Because, Alex was Alex,
Yep.
right? So I'm not saying that he was one note, but he was himself,
Yep.
So that's all we saw. So it's really interesting for people that have these obviously different personalities and different notes. But George Stephanopoulos, I think, will do really good. Remember, he started out in politics.
Yep.
Yeah. And who was the one you listed before George?
Sanjay Gupta.
Yeah, I think he'll be good. But Robin Roberts might be great.
There is something that Alex conditioned in everybody that watched Jeopardy religiously. And it's an absolute cadence every single time. And it is almost soothing. And you don't know it until you don't hear it.
Right.
And it's usually when somebody gives the answer and it's correct, it's his response to it is very quick. Everybody else's, it's just a fragment of a delay, or you're anticipating Alex giving a quick little piece of banter that then somebody else doesn't give, and it's kind of dead air.
Right.
That's where I think this training might come in, which is, listen, I imagine that Jeopardy has this down to a science for all of these people. And even within that formula that they've laid out, there's still some, wiggle room for them to be themselves. But because none of them have done it before and they're recording 3 to 4 episodes a day, it's just smashing you in the face. And then all of a sudden, after 2 days or 2.5 days, you're done. You never really get to truly understand your performance in this well-oiled machine.
Right. So I saw a piece of paper, and I mean, it's paper, so I don't know how long ago it was, because I've got to believe it's technology now.
Yep.
But it was a piece of paper, and it was the Jeopardy, the blocks.
The board?
The board. But it was on a piece of paper, and it was everything. It was the right answer, and it was everything Alex needed to know. And I saw one that he was showing somebody, and he just literally, in the early days, it was, had pronunciations and everything. And he just, the minute was hit, would cross it out. So he was crossing them out. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting. I wonder if it's a big digital touch display now at their podium.
I'll bet now. I mean, just the right thing comes up for him on some digital display.
But that's what I mean. I wonder if he's following along, and then it kind of populates the way it does on our screen, so he knows where it's coming from. Or he can kind of follow along and press, or he or she. See, there's a fly in here.
It's a gnat.
It's a gnat.
Yeah.
We're professionals. Keep moving on. He can push one of the boxes and it populates with all that stuff that you're talking about. And then when it's done, he clicks end and then it goes away, because Jeopardy is heavily edited, by the way. Right. One of the things you don't see is there's a ton of dead air in between, I imagine, some of these things. And it's super duper chopped up, but so much of it, everybody's off screen that they're just trimming the audio. But I have to imagine there's something fairly intuitive and comfortable with them. And I would imagine it's like the display board is. So
here's the one thing that I'm really enjoying with Jeopardy, which is a funny thing. But, with Alex, I always felt like those stupid questions, the personal questions they ask people. And then Alex would say, hey, I heard you got married, on the coast of Nicaragua.
And then they tell their story and he'd be like, wow, that's a dumb story.
Yeah, exactly. It was always so really, that's what you came up with your life, number one. And then number two, Alex, could you be a little bit excited? I mean, show some emotion or something. So it's been fun to see other people react oh my God. Anderson one time said, that sounds cool. I mean, I want to do that,
It makes you think, who was more awkward? The audience member or the contestants or Alex?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's a bit of a duality there.
Yeah.
I don't really have an out cue for this cold open, so let's start the podcast.
Okay.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. Sitting right there, she's the host of this show. Hopefully she doesn't pull an Ellen. It's my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And because she's Ellen, I'm Twitch, and if she ever leaves, that means I'm going to be unemployed and have nowhere to stay. I'm her son, Kev, and this is our podcast. No, it's not Halloween, but it's Deb's business segment. And today, Deb is going to teach us how to work with and combat a workplace vampire. A workplace vampire.
Very good.
Thank you. We also have 3 brand spanking new questions for Dear Debbie. And like we always do at this time, we're going to let you know what's coming out of that kitchen tonight and what we are super thankful for this week. But first, one of the topics that we've talked about that has garnered the most attention is our becoming 7-Eleven people.
Yeah, but you should have never said that.
A lot of people have told us, welcome to the community.
Yep.
A lot of people have criticized us and wondered why we're taking our lives in our hands when we go to 7-Eleven. Just wanted to give a little 7-Eleven update.
Okay.
Last week, I had to tell you and Dad to stop buying me sodas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because we don't have them in our house.
We don't keep any soda of any kind in the house because we will consume it like ravenous freaks. An entire Costco-size pallet of Diet Coke will be gone in a week, and we'll all just be staring at each other, scratching our necks, wondering where the next fix is coming from. We talked about how we would normally go get Diet Cokes from McDonald's and then Diet caffeine-free Diet Cokes from Five Guys. We transitioned the caffeine-free over to 7-Eleven, so we've spent a lot of time there. There was like 7 days in a row where I just had massive double big gulp size Diet Cokes waiting here for me, which again, I'm so utterly appreciative of that because I didn't have to go out and get it. And we all know they cost like 79 cents.
76 cents.
76 cents. The problem is now you're mainlining 2 liters of cola every single day to where I came back from the gym one day and there was one waiting for me. And both you and Dad came into the kitchen. I said, hey, I need to say this. Thank you both for getting me all these Diet Cokes. Please stop.
Yeah.
I can't keep consuming this much soda.
It's terrible for you.
Fast forward a week later, you and I didn't have much to do in the afternoon. And I said, caffeine-free run? And you said, yeah, absolutely. So it's like 3 o'clock. We pull up to the 7-Eleven. It's 3 o'clock is when it is just popping at that 7-Eleven. Again, because I'm a great son, I forced my mother to go in.
Yes, I've got to go into the 7-Eleven.
To be fair,
actually get the drinks.
I drove. The dog was in the back. She needed to be safe. Less concerned about your safety as I was the dog's. To the left of me pulls up this woman. No judgment on the woman. Left her white Chihuahua mix in her car, so it's standing on the console. She goes in. Now the windows are cracked. It's not super hot. I'm not gonna break the window or cause a scene. The dog just wouldn't stop barking for 5 minutes. I took video of it. Barking, 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 barking. To where I realized nobody else is paying attention to it. My window's cracked and I just start saying, shut up. Shut up. And it's just kind of looking at me and barking at with those, big rat eyes. It eventually stops when it realizes.
Now you've offended all the Chihuahua owners.
Hey, I love all dogs that still got big rat eyes. Finally sits down. While that's happening, a huge 1980s pickup truck has stalled in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah, I saw.
And there are 2 guys trying to get its momentum going, yelling at each other, not in a cursory way, but hey, this is what you need to do, Terry. You got to push a little bit more and I'll pull. And so I got the dog barking. We've got people trying to move the truck behind us. We have this sea of people who belong as extras on HBO's The Wire coming and going. And I'm not kidding you. Every single time I'm in that car, I am like Jack Bauer, heightened awareness, 360, making sure nobody's sneaking up on us to catch me off guard, to steal the dog out of the window.
Us. I'm in the store.
Well, no, me and the dog.
Oh, for God's sake.
And then on top of it, I'm trying to do ocular pat downs of people walking into the 7-Eleven to see if I see any guns or knives so that I can run out of the car and save you.
Yeah.
And every time you go in there, there's somebody brand new working.
Oh my gosh. It is not the same people ever. That are working there. This is such a busy 7-Eleven.
It's crazy.
It is ridiculous. And people go in there. This is the thing that amazes me. There was a young man, I'm going to say maybe 19, 21-ish, that age. And he was a few people in front of me. And I hear her say, that'll be $15. Now, it's not weird to spend $15.
Did he buy half the store?
Well, here's what he bought. So he bought a drink, and then he bought 4 of their fat little taquitos that is rolling on the hot dog roller thing.
So at $1.50 right now.
No, those things are like $3 each.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. And so it ended up, maybe he bought another little snack, but it was these 4 taquitos basically in a drink. Okay.
Yeah.
I literally wanted to scream, stop. There are like 5 restaurants around here. Go get a healthy meal.
No kidding.
Don't eat that. Not for $15.
Right.
Like that's crazy.
There's a gas station across the street that has sub sandwiches. Go get that place.
Yes. And for $15, you could come out with a large good sub over there. So that, like, the mother in me came out. That kind of, bothered me. Then there's the guys that it's 3:00. I don't know if they're off work. I don't know, like, if they're going home.
Yeah.
But, it's a 6-pack of beer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just a 6-pack, but it's like going in the car with them. Then that worries me. Like, do they crack it in the car? Of course they do, right?
No, probably. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they wait to go home and they're not drinking and driving. But if your first stop is at the 7-Eleven at 3:00, chances are you're really excited to get into that 6-pack. So we experienced the humanity that is that 7-Eleven, and we looked at each other and we said, are there really no other 7-Elevens that carry fountain caffeine-free Diet Coke? We tried to go to many. We really only ended up at one, and they didn't. At no point was it even there.
And Dad even said later, I checked that one.
Yeah, and then the other ones we would go to, we would just be robbing Peter to pay Paul in the safety dynamic of life. So yeah, I have tried to temper the soda consumption while not losing my mom to an armed robbery.
When we turn off the main road into the 7-Eleven, I like to remind Kevin that he makes a left-hand turn over a double yellow line.
Oh, yeah.
Which is illegal. So we do that. Then we cross through a bank parking lot before we actually get to the 7-Eleven. So I feel like, we've got our criminal element, right there. One day we're going to get stopped.
We're one of them is what you're saying.
We're one of them. Yeah,
Great.
yeah, we're fitting in,
Happy that we're conforming. Before we get into Deb's business segment, at the release of this episode 82, I believe, we are less than a month away from the Deb and Kev podcast 1-year anniversary. Yeah, you can clap. Here, everybody, clap it up. Clap it up. 1 whole year, you people have wasted your lives listening to my mother and I talk about Slurpees and Jeopardy. We are planning to do something in the form of giving gifts. Right now, we're thinking...
No, don't tell.
Oh, you don't want to tell anybody what we're thinking?
Shouldn't it be a surprise?
Well, why would somebody want a gift if they don't know what it is?
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess.
You guys, I promise it's going to be cool. And then we give them like a pop socket.
With our faces on it.
Exactly. Here's what we're thinking right now. With really no rhyme or reason behind any of this other than we think it conforms with our brand and we think you would like it. We want to create, and we're in the process of doing so, some Deb and Kev official prayer tea mugs that you can put your own prayers and tea into and listen to this podcast.
Yep.
We want to come up with some nice, that kind of vintage tea, Deb and Kev pod t-shirts. What they'll say on them, I don't really know. We need a better catchphrase than hey, hi, hello, and welcome, but I think that might resonate with some people. And
here's
then
the deal.
Then the thing, you don't say that. You say here's the deal in real life. You don't ever say that on this podcast.
I don't say it, do I here?
That's your own catchphrase. So when we eventually break up, like you threatened to do 20 minutes ago, you can start your own podcast. Here's the deal with Deb.
Yeah.
I want to take like old school 1970s black and white headshots photos with you and I. So like totally cringe, but like ironic cringe, like with big smiles that are that high gloss that then you and I signed. Like the stuff that goes up in New York City delis.
Yeah.
I want us to take those photos, have them printed, and then sign them with big black Sharpies, and then be able to send them to everybody.
Do people want these?
I don't know why you wouldn't want these. So here's what we're thinking. We'll probably produce a lot of mugs. And in all honesty, if you're going to want a mug, we'll probably get you a mug.
Yeah.
The mug, the t-shirt, and the photo, we're going to try to parlay into some marketing branding thing where it's like, hey, the first 20 people to post a Deb and Kev podcast related element on social media qualifies for this. And, that's the first 20. And when they're gone, and nowhere in the middle shall they meet. We're flushing that out. But we are so appreciative of everybody that supported us because we still have no idea why you're supporting us this long. Honestly,
we love you for it.
Of course.
Yeah.
I just want some cool merch. I think it's time that we have at least some t-shirts. Deb will never wear it, but I'll wear it. And I just love the idea that we have glossy headshot photos of ourselves.
Or I'll redesign it, the t-shirt.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you'll turn it into a big sweater or something like that. It'd be great. And I just like the idea that those headshots will exist in someone's like rec room, or they'll put it away one year and 20 years later it'll resurface and their kids will say, "Who's this famous couple?" And they'll be like, "Oh, they're not." Not even a little bit.
So here's what I do want to say. I'm going to look at the camera when I say this.
Here we go.
If you know us personally and you get one of those photos, it better get framed and be put on a wall.
Big time.
Big time. Yeah.
So we're anticipating doing something. I think our actual anniversary is June 21st, but I don't believe an episode will come out that day. I think it'll come out like the 22nd or the 23rd. So we're about exactly a month away.
Okay, great.
We will keep everybody apprised of what will happen. We'll probably have something in 2 weeks' time, and then that's when we'll make our push and we'll
like that.
Hit the stars with superstardom.
It is impossible for me to believe that it's almost been a year.
We've been doing video broadcasts for almost 8 months.
It is impossible for me to believe that we've come up with this many episodes and that we never skipped, like never once. If you would have asked me in the beginning, I would have said, "Oh yeah, I mean, I'll travel again. We'll go here. We'll do that. We'll skip a couple." We've never skipped.
I would feel bad. Honestly,
I would too.
Enough people have messaged us when like a episode doesn't post on time. They're like, "Hey, is everything okay?
Are you guys alive?
Are you guys doing all right?" It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It just was the wrong time." So I have this innate insecurity and anxiety about never actually creating a podcast for the listening audience. So congratulations, guys. You unintentionally have given me anxiety about a product that I give to you freely.
Yeah. There's nothing better for me than waking up in the morning and that 3 people on the East Coast have already texted and said something about the podcast and it's on my phone. It's my happiest moment.
I agree.
Yeah.
Deb's business segment. You and I talked about this last night. I think it's a very interesting topic. We have all worked with people who the second they walk into a room, suck the life out of it. Mm-hmm. Their presence is not that it's not welcome. It's just not great. Their demeanor is very almost entitled and selfish. And as their emotions go, so goes the office. I coined the term a vampire simply because they suck the energy out of the room. You've had to deal with this. We've all had to deal with this. You offer solutions to it. And I think that's a great topic, especially with the world opening back up and people going back into work. You forget that, oh yeah, some of my coworkers I don't like because of this reason. Deb, help everybody come to terms with it and to combat it.
So I kind of want to give this is kind of a niche definition. Mm-hmm. So we are talking about somebody that sucks the energy out of the room.
Totally.
Right? And I want to say consciously does that. I mean, that is their intention.
Got it.
Okay. I think also it's somebody that seems to have a different agenda than what the agenda of the workplace should be.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Sure.
Okay. But we're never sure what their agenda is. I mean, I think part of the power in that vampire thing is keeping us like that we're walking on eggshells, keeping us off balance a little bit.
Yeah.
Because what I want to make sure is that we're just not talking about somebody that, loves a little drama. You know how there are those personalities that would never, there's no malintent. But they're like a little dramatic.
Little water cooler talk.
Maybe a little gossip, always a little giggle behind it, really would feel terrible if they hurt someone's feelings, right? Or they might overreact to change in the office a little bit, but we know they're going to overreact and then we know they're going to calm down. So we're not talking about that person. What we're talking about, and this is almost an insidious thing, where somebody really has to always be digging at somebody or something.
Yep.
And usually it's like a vampire because it's not out in the open.
Ooh, I like that. It's in the alleys. It's in the shadows.
It's in the alleys. It's in the shadows. And so often it'll almost be like, there's this one person that they befriend, right? And, let's go to lunch, let's have, they go in and take their coffee into their office first thing in the morning. And it becomes what I think it looks like behind the scenes is, let's say they're coworkers.
Yep.
And it could be like, I think the owner drives way too nice of a car. I mean, for what we get paid, if she just drove a different car, we could be making a little bit more money.
Got it.
I think it's kind of like that, like just planting seeds,
kind of testing
negativity.
the waters to see if that person will say, oh, I don't know. It's a nice Mercedes, but I don't know that it's going to break our bank, or be like, yeah, I saw that too. And she doesn't deserve that Escalade. We deserve an extra 25 cents.
Exactly. And so what do we know about vampires? The first time if a vampire reveals they're a vampire, people go, get out of here.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with it, right? So if somebody were to push back on that, they would let them. That would be like, okay, I'll give you that space.
Because what else do we know about vampires? You have to invite them in.
You have to invite them in.
Yes.
So then they just keep dropping the seeds,
Yep.
dropping the seeds. Well, eventually, if you're having lunch all the time, having coffee all the time, eventually whoever that person or thing is that the vampire is trying to erode, eventually that person will do something wrong, obviously, with the person they're trying to affect, and then they've got him. Because that's kind of the inviting in. Now we're both, whining and complaining, and that is our glue that holds us together.
That's the grooming that's happening.
It's the grooming that's happening. So, I have seen this happen in so many businesses. And often you'll see not the vampire leave, but the person that they have infiltrated.
Taken under their bat wing.
Taken under their bat wing. So it's really very, very insidious, because I think the vampire is able, in front of the right people, to put on a great face. What, me? Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. What is it I'm doing wrong? Well, here's the thing. Nobody knows exactly what you're doing wrong, except I know you're not on my team. Right?
Yep.
I know you don't have my back. I know that I feel like an outsider to your group. And by the way, I own this business. Right? So, one of the things, and this is what I've said this as a business owner, I've heard this so many times. These people are normally really capable. So what happens is we get this mixed message. They're capable. They do their work. This thing they do doesn't actually affect their performance. It affects the culture of the office, right? And it makes us all feel like, whoa, what's going on? Who's in charge? This is unsettling. Often you'll see when they get brave, they'll take somebody on in a meeting or something, in a little, but not like to its end, just a little pokish. So, I've had a couple different clients where I had a client back east, I don't know, a few years ago. And I said, I think you have a problem with so-and-so, which the owner agreed it was a problem. We talked to the woman. She was just like, what, me? Kind of like in denial. And I don't know, 3 years went by, and it's almost like the owner isn't in charge anymore. And I know the owner felt that as well. Do you mean like, what is going, like she was being excluded from her own business.
Yeah.
And what she said was the thing that really hit her square between the eyes. She had seen a colleague at an event 3 years before, and they had actually talked about this situation. Fast forward 3 years. She happens just to see that colleague again. And the colleague says, hey, how did you ever resolve that? And she realized she had not yet resolved it.
3 years later.
3 years later. And so she called me and she said, I'm ready, I'm doing it. And she ended up letting her go. Well, here's the thing. Guess what? The vampires fold. Do you mean like they think they have supreme control? She let her go. What did the whole office do? The whole office breathed a sigh of relief.
Yeah. The whole office, as soon as she said, Karen's no longer here.
Exactly. Even the person that this woman had completely under her wing, we believed kind of...
Yeah, because she was out of that trance.
She was out of that trance. She kind of returned to her normal, great self. And so the only answer, especially when somebody really won't openly communicate about the problem that you see, the only answer is to let them go, no matter how capable they are.
And here's the thing that people will push back on. If we let them go, so much of the burden falls to everybody else. We need them. And universally, you've seen this and I've seen this. Everybody is so happy to see that person leave. Nobody cares about the extra workload at all.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. People will happily work hard and work more hours and carry that heavy load for whatever time until we get another person or until we adjust the schedule, whatever it is we need to do.
Yep.
People, that is like a sigh of relief when that person is gone. They're very unpredictable. The whole world is not comfortable with them, maybe one or two, but even those, it's like, being, it's kind of like in high school being controlled by a mean girl. You never truly feel safe with her,
because your number's getting called eventually.
Your number's going to get called. Eventually she's going to grow bored of you and turn on you. And this need for that, to wield that kind of power is just unhealthy. I would say as a coach, probably to most bosses, look, this is the therapy issue. I mean, that's what I think it is, right?
For that individual.
For that individual. They have such a desire for control, and they're exercising it in here in the weirdest and most unhealthy and toxic way. And we can't be in charge of their mental health. I mean, we are literally not in charge of that.
We can barely be in charge of our own mental health.
Exactly. So, I mean, I really do think I would love to say sit, and I do think you should sit them down. I do think you should talk to them. I do think you should say, people walk on eggshells around you. It feels like you have another intention or another agenda. I'm not talking about your performance in terms of what you're capable of doing. I'm talking about your performance and what you're bringing to the culture. Because if you think about what we owe the culture, we owe our own little injection of joy.
Yep.
We own our own little connection with the folks, right? Whatever the established culture is, that's who we need to be,
yep.
Right? We should be, I don't know, throwing little sprinkles of positivity around the office, right? But at the same time, we should be honest. We should be communicating openly. There should be a certain level of vulnerability, which hopefully leads to trust. And it should be a place where we all feel safe. And so there are the words to say, this is what we should be. This is what you're not.
Yeah.